Hello, everyone. We are back. We are back with Exodus, which is mainly about Moses. We're done with Genesis. We covered Jacob and Joseph, which is the end of Genesis. So now we're on to Exodus and the central figure, Moses himself, who is one of the most important figures in the Bible. Probably top 3, maybe top 2, under the one and only Jesus. I've kind of went over Moses, but he was grouped together with other major figures in the Bible. Today we're going to give him his flowers. We're just going to go over Moses himself. So let's get right into it. Setting the stage, Exodus 1. After Joseph dies, Jacob's son, his generation passes away. The Israelites multiply rapidly in Egypt and become numerous. A new Pharaoh rises who did not know Joseph. He fears the growing Hebrew population and enslaves them. Harsh labor is imposed. Attempts are made to control their population. Pharaoh orders all Hebrew baby boys to be killed at birth. This leads directly into Moses' origin story. Birth and rescue of Moses, Exodus chapter 2. Moses is born to Hebrew parents during the genocide of baby boys. His mother hides him for 3 months. She puts him in a basket and sets it in the Nile River in Egypt. Pharaoh's daughter finds him and adopts him. Moses' biological mother becomes his nurse. Moses grows up with dual identity, Hebrew by birth, Egyptian by upbringing. So this is the central part of Moses' story that we covered already, but it's very important. Born into the Hebrew identity, which is exactly the identity that is being killed by the Pharaoh, the Egyptian leader at the time. His mother puts him in a basket down the Nile River to save him, and then he gets adopted into the Egyptian royalty, ironically. The most ironic come-up ever. Next, Moses flees Egypt. As an adult, Moses sees an Egyptian beating a Hebrew slave, so you can imagine the inner turmoil of him in this moment. He's brought up from the Egyptians, but he himself is Hebrew, and then he is watching his Hebrew people be oppressed and treated unfairly. So when he sees an Egyptian beating a Hebrew slave, he kills the Egyptian and hides the body. So frustration took over him and adrenaline. When Pharaoh finds out, Moses flees to Midian. He marries Zipporah, daughter of Jethro, a Midianite priest. This is the exile moment. Moses is humbled before God calls him. So after Moses flees Egypt, he becomes a shepherd for 40 years, which is very habitual, routine work. So this was a process that God put him through, not explicitly, but he's controller of everything. So it was very intentional that Moses would go through this humbling time in his life before God fully revealed himself to him. Next, the burning bush, Exodus chapters 3 and 4. Moses encounters a bush that burns but is not consumed. God speaks to him and reveals his name, I am who I am, or Yahweh. God commissions Moses to return to Egypt. God commissions Moses to return to Egypt and free the Israelites. Moses resists, saying he's unable to do the job due to his stuttering and his insecurity and his fear. He doesn't think he has what it takes to free the Israelites from Egypt and the Pharaoh. God appoints Aaron as his spokesperson. This is Moses' divine calling and empowerment. Next, Moses returns to Egypt, Exodus 5. Moses tells Pharaoh to let Israel go. Pharaoh refuses. Pharaoh increases slave labor, blaming Moses. And this sets up the spiritual battle, which goes into the 10 plagues, Exodus chapter 7 through 12. God sends escalating plagues because of Pharaoh's hardened heart. So due to the Pharaoh refusing to release these Israelites, God is casting plagues on them to teach them a lesson and to get him to let them go. So he sends, firstly, water to blood. So he transforms the water into blood. He sends frogs. He sends gnats. He sends flies, livestock disease, boils, hail, locusts, darkness, and then finally, death of the firstborn, or Passover. Passover origins. Israelites mark their doorposts with lamb's blood. The angel of death passes over them. This becomes the central Jewish festival. The Exodus, the escape from Egypt, Exodus chapters 12 through 15. First, the Israelites leave. Egypt urges them to leave after the death of the firstborn. They plunder Egypt as God promised Abraham. So this is highlighting the overarching covenant between God and his original chosen person that he revealed himself to, Abraham, and all the promises and blessings that he said he was going to grant Abraham and the Israelites and his people and lineage. Next, crossing the Red Sea, the most famous thing that he probably did, maybe aside from the 10 Commandments given to him by God. Pharaoh pursues them with chariots, the Israelite people fleeing. Israel is trapped at the sea, so I guess they're cornered behind to a body of water, and there's nowhere for them to go, and the Egyptians are either right there or coming to them. Moses raises his staff, the waters part, as we remember from Moses parting the Red Sea. Israel crosses on dry ground. The waters collapse on Pharaoh's army. This is the defining salvation moment of the Old Testament. So God has officially freed the Israelites from the Egyptian oppression. Moses parts the Red Sea, leads the Israelites through the bodies of water being separated. And then I take it that the Egyptians are right behind them, chasing them. And then as soon as the Israelites get out of that area, God releases the bodies of water back into one onto the Egyptians, which is a mark of punishment for what the Egyptians did to the Israelites, justice being served. Next, the wilderness journey, Moses as leader. Manna and water from the rock, Exodus chapters 16 and 17. Israel complains repeatedly. God provides manna from heaven, which is apparently the miraculous, sweet, bread-like food God provided. Water from a rock struck by Moses reveals the tension between human distrust and divine provision. So God is watching over them, using Moses as a mediator. God actually tried to talk to all of them and revealed his voice to all of them, but apparently his voice was so damning, so crushing, that the Israelites freaked out and said, "Yo, Moses, we need you to mediate God's voice because we will die if we listen to this. This is excruciating." And then it says the Israelites keep complaining, which is a really interesting scene to play out in your mind. He led them out of oppression. He freed them. He is bestowing them manna, or this bread-like food, and Moses is able to strike a rock and get water. So they're performing these supernatural miracles to make sure they're fed and watered, and God did all these things to get them out of oppression, but now they're in the wilderness. And at this point, their sense of identity was pretty bankrupt. They went from oppression for however long, a long time, and now they're free. They have no leader, except they have God mediating through Moses, the direct leader, and yet they're still complaining. They're being fed, they're being watered, but at the end of the day, they're still in this wilderness period. They're in this period of reconstruction of identity, reconstruction of society, and how everything is going to go rules-wise and what order they're going to do everything. So the Israelites are complaining and just lost as a people group, despite everything that God and Moses is doing for them. Next, the 10 Commandments, which is God trying to help them establish some rules, some grounds-level rules. Exodus chapters 19 and 20. Israel arrives at Mount Sinai. God descends in fire, cloud, lightning, and trumpet blasts. Moses goes up the mountain, receives the 10 Commandments from God and the covenant law. Massive moment. Israel goes from a slave people to a covenant nation. The golden calf incident, Exodus 32. While Moses is on Sinai for 40 days, the people panic. They build a golden calf and worship it. Moses returns, smashes the tablets, and confronts them. God threatens judgment. Moses intercedes. New tablets are given, covenant restored. shows Moses as mediator, intercessor, prophet, leader. This is the clearest parallel between Moses and Jesus. So Moses goes up on Mount Sinai, and then these lost, complaining people with no sense of identity because their entire personalities are based off of their oppression and their Egyptian rulers. They're just freaking out because they're like, okay, our leader, our mediator between God has now gone up and left us. Now what? Who are we supposed to worship now? Where's our sense of identity going to go now? Well, let's make a golden calf. Let's just worship this. We need something, anything. This thing can give us rules. Our worship for this will give us rules. And then Moses descends from the mountain where God literally just gave him the 10 Commandments, and he is furious that these guys, not only were they complaining this whole time and doubting, even when God is revealing himself to them through Moses, but now they're going through idolatry already. Their sense of worship and trust or faith in God just diminishes as soon as Moses goes away. So Moses comes back with the 10 Commandments, and he's like, are you serious? And he just breaks them. Like, I can only imagine how upset Moses was for that. These people that he's leading out, that he's entrusted with, he is the leader of them. He is the one that's bestowing the covenant and building them up, literally fulfilling the promise that was given to Abraham. And these people still are doubting and sinning and worshiping idols apart from God. And finally, the tabernacle. Is that how you pronounce it? And finally, the tabernacle, Exodus 35 through 40. God gives instructions for a portable sanctuary. Israel builds the tabernacle. God's presence dwells among them. This ends Exodus with God living with his people, the point of the entire canon. So this is an overview of Moses' life. We kind of just went through the chapters and uncoded and gave a general summary of each of them. But they're in this wilderness for 40 years. And you can imagine what the people went through just given what they did from what we said up until the 10 Commandments were given to Moses. I can only imagine what these 40 years were like with these people. But I have some questions here to give a bit more on Moses and the impact that he left, and then I have a summary to leave it off on. And if you've been keeping up with my account, I've kind of gone over a lot of this stuff already, but I just want individual videos of each person so people can come by and see all this. So let's get into these questions. Why is Moses so vital? There's a lot of things we've already gone over that answer this, but let's put it out there. 1, he is the liberator of Israel. Moses is the one God uses to confront Pharaoh, break the power of Egypt through the plagues, lead the Israelites out of slavery, split the Red Sea, and bring Israel to Mount Sinai. This transforms Israel from a group of oppressed tribes into a nation with identity and purpose. So Moses is the covenant fulfiller. So Moses is helping fulfill the covenant of the Israelites having their own nation. 2, he is the lawgiver. Moses receives the 10 Commandments, the covenant at Sinai, the full Torah, Genesis through Deuteronomy, in Jewish tradition. This is the foundation of Jewish ethics, worship, identity, and culture. So you could say Moses is one of, if not the most important figure in the Old Testament, especially in Jewish tradition. 3, he mediates between God and the people. When God speaks, Moses delivers it. When the people sin, Moses intercedes for them. He is the bridge between divine holiness and human weakness. So Moses is playing a very important role here. He is the one that confronts the people. He is the one that speaks from God to the people. He is the one that delivers the covenant. He is the one that delivers the covenant to the people. He is the one helping lead the people entirely. 4, he is the prototype of later prophets. Every later prophet, from Elijah to Isaiah, echoes Moses. Even Jesus is described as a prophet like Moses. Moses sets the pattern for what a servant of God looks like. How Moses progressed the importance of Israel and its canon. Moses sets the pattern for what? Moses sets the pattern for what a servant of God looks like. And if we can remember from what Jesus has said, when when Jesus is causing all this uproar with the rabbis and the Pharisees and just even the whole community that he is around, he says in reference to Moses and the Ten Commandments, he says, I have not come to abolish the law, but to fulfill it. So he's referencing the Ten Commandments and Moses in this, and just the whole covenant, and just the entire covenant up to that point with God and the chosen people. How Moses progressed the importance of Israel and its canon. He turned the descendants of Abraham into a covenant nation. Before Moses, Israel had promises but no laws, no nationhood, no structure. After Moses, Israel has commandments, a tabernacle, priests, festivals, a covenant constitution, a national story. Moses is the one who forms Israel into a people who belong to God. So Moses establishes a lot of culture for the people. Moses establishes identity and a nation between these people. They have their own separation from their oppression prior. Next, he wrote the core scriptures. Jewish and Christian tradition hold that Moses wrote Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. This becomes the foundation of the Hebrew Bible, the heart of Jewish worship, the framework Jesus himself taught from. Without Moses, there is no Bible as we know it. So this is the importance of Moses. This is the impact that Moses left. This is the leadership that Moses had. This is the prophecy that Moses was given. This is the covenant that Moses was given. This is Scripture itself through Moses. So I have a summary here to end it off on. Moses' story begins in a time of oppression. Israel is enslaved in Egypt, and Pharaoh orders every Hebrew baby boy to be killed. In the middle of that darkness, Moses is born. Hidden in a basket on the Nile and rescued by Pharaoh's daughter, he grows up with two identities, Hebrew by birth, Egyptian by upbringing. As an adult, Moses kills an Egyptian who is beating a Hebrew slave, and he flees into the wilderness. In exile, he's humbled, until he meets God in the burning bush. There, God reveals his name, I Am, and calls Moses to confront Pharaoh and lead Israel out of slavery. Moses returns to Egypt and becomes God's instrument through the 10 plagues, culminating in Passover and the death of the firstborn. Israel finally leaves, but Pharaoh pursues, and God parts the Red Sea. Through Moses, delivering his people once and for all. In the wilderness, Moses becomes Israel's leader. God provides manna, water from the rock, and protection. At Mount Sinai, God gives Moses the 10 Commandments and forms Israel into a covenant nation. But while Moses is on the mountain, the people fall into idolatry with the golden calf. Moses intercedes, the covenant is restored, and the tabernacle is built so God's presence can dwell among his people. Moses stands at the center of Israel's identity. He is Liberator, breaking the power of Egypt, Lawgiver, receiving the commandments and the Torah, Mediator, standing between God and the people, Prototype prophet, the pattern for everyone who comes after him. Through Moses, God turns the descendants of Abraham into a true nation with laws, worship, festivals, a covenant, and a story. Moses shapes the foundation of Scripture, the identity of Israel, and ultimately the world Jesus steps into. So yeah, I learned some things about Moses here. I did not know that he is referred to as the writer of Genesis through Deuteronomy. I didn't know he wrote all this. I did not know that. So an important figure. He precedes Jesus. Jesus says he fulfills the law that Moses was given through God, and he is one of, if not the most important figure in Jewish tradition and in the Old Covenant. So, that is the story of Moses. Thank you for watching.